These are the test corrections for the Chapter 14 tests. Question number 1 tells you to analyze the rectangle DEFG. Something that I notice on the that students are struggling with is something called units or increments. Although this is 1 box, 2 boxes, 3 boxes, 4 boxes, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Here, the first number I see is 20. It's 20 after 2 boxes, which means that each box is worth 10 units. So as I'm analyzing this, I need to see that. Question number 1A. First, it says, notice your verbs here. It says explain how you can transform the rectangle. So explain means using words. Rectangle so that D prime is located at the origin. So the origin here is 0, 0. So basically you're moving D here all the way up there. So I created a rule. This helped me do it. So here on the y-axis I'm going up 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 boxes. Each box is worth 10, so 8 times 10 is 80. So I wrote y plus 20. And then I need to move it over to the right, so that's x plus 20. So here's my rule. This is how I did the problem. So your explanation is you need to go up 80 units and then right 20 units. That was worth 2 points. If you told me something like go up 8 and then right 2, I gave you 1 out of 2 points. Okay, remember, it's not boxes, they're the units, each box is worth 10. The second thing it says for you to do, it says then graph rectangle D prime, E prime, F prime, G prime on the coordinate grid. So graphing it means drawing it. So here I've drawn all of those coordinates. Okay, I've translated this box so that D prime is on the origin. Remember, when there's no prime or double prime when I say it, it means that this is the original and this is the second image they call it, or the the image itself now. So you got 2 points for just drawing this on the graph. Okay, and the last verb, it says list. List its coordinates. Write the coordinates. Well, if you created a rule like I did, you can just take. If you just write down the coordinates of these here, like I did, negative 20, negative 80, I got that by going left 20, down 80, right 60, down negative 80, and so on and so on. Then you can just apply the rule to find them. For example, to find G prime, I'm going to add 20 here. So negative 20 plus 20 gives me 0, and 80 and a negative 20 gives me a positive 60. So I gave you another 2 points for just listing out the coordinates. Okay? You received 1 point if you wrote the coordinates with just the boxes. For example, if you wrote G prime is 0, 6, that's incorrect. It's 0, 60. Now you don't have to use this rule. You could have just moved the box so that D prime is on the origin, and you can just list it out the coordinates. Okay? Question B, 1B says calculate the perimeter of rectangle DEFG. So the perimeter just means to add, and to add, I just calculate the sides. Now, notice how it says DEFG. So you're looking at this first picture they've given you. Well, this side here is going to be, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. So it's not 6, it's 60. And in this direction, it is 8 boxes, but 8 times 10, because each of these are 10s, that's 80. Opposite sides are congruent on a rectangle, so 60 and 60, 80 and 80. If you add them all up, you'll get 280 units squared. Okay. If you got 280, but you didn't show me any work, you just have 280, I gave you 2 points. SW means show work. I gave you 3 points if you found the area to be 28 and not 280. Question 1C, calculate the area of rectangle DEFG. Okay, I gave you 2 points out of 4 if you just wrote down the formula and you don't know anything else. Okay, the base is, doesn't matter which one's the base, so I labeled this one the base, so it's 60 and this one's 80, so you just multiply those and you get 4,800 units squared. I did not deduct points if you didn't write units squared. If you got area to be 48, I give you 3 points out of 4 because you didn't use your units or increments. Question number 2, analyze triangle XYZ on the next page. Calculate the area. Notice how I took triangle XYZ here, and all I did is I draw my own picture. The reason why I draw my own picture is so I can see things. Well, for me, I decided that I can just count. Notice the increments are just 1. Each box is just worth 1. So here, I called this on the x-axis my height. The reason why this is called the height because it's perpendicular, and then the base is just here, you just count them, that's 10. Well, the area of a triangle, to add to your formula sheet, area equals base times height divided by 2. So 10 times 6 is 60, and 60 divided by 2 is 30. Triangle XYZ is 30 units squared. It's going too fast. I'll be posting this during the next period so you can see it on my website. B, double the area of XYZ by manipulating point Z to create triangle XYZ prime. Notice how Z is the only one that has a little apostrophe. Determine the location of point Z. Okay? So you know if it says double the area, you can just take this and double it, right? 60. Okay? I'm not going to give you full credit for that though. I just gave you 2 points if you just doubled it. Okay? We talked about in class how to manipulate one of the points. Here is Z. All you have to do is double times 2 either the height or the base, but not both. For example, the height here is 6. So if I just go 6 more here, this gives me the coordinate Z prime. So now my triangle is X, Y, and Z prime. Therefore, my base stays the same, which is 10, but my height will turn into 12. 10 times 12 is 120. 120 divided by 2 is 60. The answer is 60 units squared. The last part where it says determine the location of Z prime. It's 8, 0. Gave you 1 point for that. So that page was worth 9. Question number 3, analyze parallelogram STUV. The first thing you should be doing is figuring out the increments. So if you zoom in there, you're going to recognize that the first number you see is 1 here after 2 boxes. So each of these are 0.5, or each think of one box as like 50 cents. Now the first one says determine the perimeter of parallelogram STUV, which means I need to figure out the distance of each of those. Because each of the distances are not vertical nor horizontal, okay, I can't count it, I have to do the Pythagorean Theorem. For example, my first triangle over here, I calculated, ST. Notice here it has 4 boxes, but remember every 2 boxes is 1, so that's 1, that's 2, and this part here is 1, so when I do the Pythagorean Theorem, 1 and 2 there, you'll get that side to be the square root of 5. Okay. To figure out the side length of UT, I make a little triangle right here. It has 2 boxes, so that's 1 unit, and then going up is 8 boxes or 4, so 1 and 4 are my right triangle. I'd use Pythagorean Theorem. This is my A value, this is my B value. You square it, so you'll get 16 plus 1, just 17. Take the square root, C is equal to the square root of 17, which is approximately 8.4. So this is 4.5, opposite sides are congruent, add them all up, and you'll get approximately 12.72 units. Okay? That problem was only worth 4 points. If you turn to the next page, it was an extra credit question. So in extra credit questions, I don't give you a point for trying. So if you got a 0, that means it was all wrong. In the extra credit question, I did not give you a point for having the to find the area of the parallelogram's base times height. I gave you a total of 3 points. 1 point if you were able to calculate ST. 1 point if you were able to calculate VT. So in the parallelogram here, a lot of you may have tried to do this. Count something like this and then multiply it by this diagonal here. Okay. Well, the base just has to be one of the sides, so I used ST. And then the height has to be perpendicular, which I calculated to be VT. So all you have to do is find the distance of those using Pythagorean Theorem, which I showed here. If I know that VT is the diagonal. Alright, so to find the area of the parallelogram, then you would have to multiply these two and you get the area to be approximately 7.1. Okay, I think only one student got one of these distances for the extra credit question. Next page. This is called a composite figure. Composite figure means it's made up of a bunch of other ones. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the increments, or the units, or the scale. So if I zoom in, I recognize the first number I see is 4, and it's 4 after 2 boxes, which means that each of the boxes has to be 2. 2, 4. The first thing it asks us to do is find the perimeter of the composite figure, round to the nearest tenth. Okay? To calculate that, all I did there was just go around, and you can just count all of the horizontals and verticals. So I count each box, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So JI is 14. I'm going around clockwise. JK is 8. To find the diagonal there, you just have to use Pythagorean Theorem. This side here is 2, and then this side here is 4. When you use the Pythagorean Theorem, you get the square root of 20 for this side, or approximately 4.47 or 4.5. That one's 2. Pythagorean Theorem again for GD, or CD. I got approximately 8.5. Count this one, count that one, and use the Pythagorean Theorem again. And you'll get approximately 71.9 units. Not squared, that's a mistake. So that whole question was only out of 4 points. If you got it all correct, I gave you 4. If you got 8 of those side lengths correct, and you 3, 2, 1, or 0 wrong, I gave you 3 points. If you got less than 7 correct, I gave you 2 points. If you got the whole thing, if you're going in the right direction, but then your units or increments are incorrect, I took off a point. So if you recognize to find the distance, you're just using the Pythagorean Theorem, and just make sure you know your scale. Last problem on the back page. Determine the area of the composite figure. So a couple of you guys broke them up into different shapes. This is how I broke up mine. KAB, this little triangle right there. Triangle ECD, this triangle over here. Okay. This little triangle up here, base times height divided by 2, is 4 units. This one was 18 units. Then I did this little rectangle right here. Which was 84 units. And then I did a trapezoid, this one right here. Trapezoid has the formula base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. And you'll get 128. And then you just add all of those up and you get 234 units squared. That side was out of 4 points and the whole test was out of 35.